Hello and welcome to There Are No Bad Ports, Just Bad Players. I'm a Jaded Gamer and today I will be playing Abe's Oddysee, new and tasty. And right up front I'd like to say that I will not be comparing this game to the previous one in terms of graphics or audio quality. It is entirely based on gameplay. Let's begin. I'm playing the 2014 Good Old Games edition, and wow, we're off to a bad start. Limited save slots on a PC game.
Here we go.
I decided to play on hard mode because it's the only one that emulates the previous game's challenge, at least in my opinion.
Follow me.
Here are the key bindings I settled on, for anyone curious. Okay, so to properly convey why I think this is a bad port, instead of playing the game, I'll be demonstrating where the issues are and hopefully why they occur. As you can see here, I'm just taking small little steps forward, pressing the key briefly and sometimes holding it slightly longer. It may be difficult to see. The purpose of this demonstration is to show that Abe no longer steps one box or square at a time like he did in the previous game, making it much less precise. And even though this may seem very small and petty on a gameplay level, it's this one issue that I'm bringing up first. It fundamentally ruins the entire game for me. Cinematic platformers are rooted in limited movement and perfectly timed actions. Every single factor of the game is based around this, from enemy movements to patrol patterns to how your character interacts with the world. That is why when Abe steps slightly further than the player intends when letting go of the movement controls, the game stops being a cinematic platformer and just becomes a mess. Here I'm demonstrating why the change from shadows in the previous game to smoke in this game does not work. As shown here, the slick cannot see me when I'm within the smoke. Okay, clearly there is smoke in front of me and on the sides, correct? Alright, I step out of the smoke, in between two smoke fields. He turns around and he can see me. Why? It makes absolutely no sense. If he can't see me when he's directly in front of me, but he can see me through the smoke field in front of me, makes absolutely no sense. This is a bad change. I also feel it's unclear when you are within the smoke field, but this is also an issue when hiding behind boxes and slugs are shooting at you from the background.
Come on, hold it right there.
The pulley lifts have also been changed. You can no longer just press up or down. You have to press the use key first, and then the direction. It's only a small thing, but it seems to trip me up every single time I go to use one. It's the same issue with doors. You have to use them rather than walk through them. I do not understand why they changed this. The previous game used a fixed camera for each screen of the game. This newer version uses a dynamic zoom in, zoom out, follow you along as you go camera. I'm not going to debate which is better here. all I'm going to point out is the issues that it can cause, such as limiting your perspective forward to the point where you'll run straight into traps. The Elm parts of the game are the only part where I believe the dynamic camera works well and is justified. However, Elm itself does not control terribly well and will often whiff on jumps. There are other issues as well, but I'm not sure what to pinpoint this on other than perhaps me, I guess. Feel free to decide for yourself.
I don't know. Huh?
I'm not sure what it is that wakes the sleep other than possible randomness, but if that's the case, that is a horrible flaw in this part of the game. I must have died here upwards of 20 times until I decided just to let it pass. I still don't understand what I did differently to get past it. Harkening back to my first point, these bombs are a good example of the randomness in the movement. Although I felt like I let go of the button, at the same point, it seemed to put me in a different spot each time. This section with the paramites is terrible. For whatever reason, when you throw a piece of meat, it is actually possible for it to bounce off a paramite. I'm assuming that this was something that was overlooked due to the physics system in the Unity engine this game functions off. As you can see, the first time it happened, I wasn't a happy chappy. There are also a few other issues. Sometimes the paramites go for the meat, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the door works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just random, or so it seems. And now we get to the final straw of the haystack. When I got to this point, quickly realised that I was soft-locked. There was simply nothing I could do to advance. I can't reach that lever to turn off the lightning that stops me getting to the bombs. These two sligs bug out and just stand there forever. No matter what you do, they'll end up returning there and just waiting. They're also impossible to get past, even if you drop down from the higher level, which would make it impossible to reach the bombs, even if I could disable the lightning switch.
When is lifetime? That egg guy comes this way. I need to shoot something. Hold it right there. When is lifetime? Stop right there. I gotta back off the scrap cake. When are we gonna get big? What? Here's my own piano bomb. I should not have come to work. Sucker, shoot him in the head, shoot him in the head. Stop right there. I wonder if I'll get paid this week.
But Jaded Gamer, I hear you say, what about that hidden passage at the top left? Well, this is what's in it. Absolutely nothing of use for me. That's what. Saving them doesn't even grant you the power-up that's available at this point in the game. It's just free Mudokons, nothing more.
Huh?
So that's where I decided to stop playing. I wasn't enjoying myself and frustrating myself in the last part of the game. Not that I could get there. It seemed like a bad idea. I realised that this episode is a bit different than what I would normally do. It was far less about how this game has been consoleized, which, to be fair, it was a console game first before it was a PC back on the PlayStation. It's been more about explaining how the game's mechanics have been poorly translated into another engine that relies on float integers to determine character, acceleration and movement. There is also one issue I haven't mentioned to this point. It's usually considered a quality of life improvement. However, in this game it is quite the opposite. Much like the original game's sequel, Abe's Exodus, this game suffers from the quick save feature. Much like a no-clip cheat in a first-person shooter, as soon as you start using it, it's almost impossible to stop. Greatly reduces the frustration, but in turn ruins the game. But it mostly just feels like a band-aid to cover up many of the other game's issues. I feel like it's been long enough that a sequel to this will not be made, as it's been over 5 years now, and I feel like that is a good thing, mostly because it won't ruin the legacy of this game any more than it already has. That may be harsh, but I think it's correct. Well, this is the first game I wasn't able to complete, not solely because of my own fault, but the game's soft locking. Nonetheless, I'm officially a bad player. I'm a Jaded Gamer. Thank you for watching.